All right, everybody. Welcome to another Pantheon P+U2. Um, man. uh, First of all, thank you everybody that's been subbing since we've got the pre-roll going. Holy
Yes.
cow! I'm like trying to set stuff up, and I'm like seeing the chat just like go go crazy. So thanks a bunch, you guys. But as y'all know, I've got I don't know which way to point, but ManOfRohan should be right next to me here, and RedBeardFlynn. Do you guys want to say hi real quick?
Good evening. Jump
Hello,
in the green
everybody.
room. We want to
jump in
talk to you. I want to. I don't want to be talking the whole time, and that I will tend to do so definitely tonight. So get in the green room so we can talk to you instead.
Yes, please carry the show for us because everyone knows that we're kind of
Yeah, and that's kind of like the funny thing. So sometimes when we do these shows, I know the three of us during the pre-roll, we'll have a little bit of chat, like just coming straight off of the parting the veil, and so I kind of like know how everyone's gonna feel. And this time we didn't do that. I was away the whole time, so I'm pretty sure.
To be fair, we were talking about wearing dresses before.
Oh, I thought it was your wife's dresses.
Me wearing my wife's dresses.
Oh, yeah. That's that's even better.
Yeah, we talk about the most interesting things when you're away, Desryn.
Yeah, see, well, this is why I should hang out during the pre-roll.
No,
but no, I'll leave next time. So you guys can have your like conversations, in private. Let's see. Okay, we got some folks popping into the green room. But first off, we usually do the whole like, what'd you guys think in general? I don't want to go first on this one. So I'm gonna pick on.
Yeah.
I think I picked on ManOfRohan first last time, so I'll pick on Red first for this one. What's your general gist coming out of this parting the veil? How are you feeling?
So there's really just only one important thing that I heard, and that's necromancer. I mean, did
Naturally.
you? Like,
of course.
It got mentioned like 3 times. I think that's more that we've heard about necromancer than in the last 6 months. So, no, I felt pretty good about this stream. I really like that we got a more clear picture of how each healing class is going to have its own way of healing. I think actually, EverQuest 2 was interesting in how they approached healing because they did kind of do it this way where you had the reactive healing, you had heal over time, and you had direct healing. And I think it actually works out pretty well. Normally, if it's balanced well, and it works out in a way where healers can complement each other. I liked hearing more specifics about exactly how they're going to do that and which of the healers is going to do whatever.
Okay. Fair enough. What about you, ManOfRohan?
Every time we hear about a class more in depth, every single class, when we've been hearing as it's going along, a little bit more, or maybe we've focused on a new class that we haven't heard a lot about. Every time I hear one, I'm like, man, I want to be that class. Man, I want to.
So you're the flip flopper.
Just every single, like even tonight. I mean, shaman we've heard a lot about for the most part, but I mean, I am going to be a cleric, but all of that just makes me super excited. All the different types of shields and such that you can have. And then you can use them in different ways, and they have different options available with them. As far as the Celestial Aegis or Aegis, however you want to say it.
However you want to say it, man.
Yeah. It's both, I guess. But and I love the idea of not staring at a wall. People were mentioning it in chat. I agree. I don't want to stare at a wall just so I have less lag and so I can click the complete heal fast enough. How boring. That's so boring. But man, Druid's blowing my mind tonight. I got to rewatch it, and so I'll leave it because I won't probably be a Druid. But there's so many cool things were coming out of the talk tonight that I'm excited for all the Druids out there.
No complete heal too. Like, can we just like take a moment to appreciate that?
Mm-hmm.
Complete heal made me quit healing in EverQuest. Like that spell alone, just
it was good. It was good to hear the stance on that, right? Which I feel like we probably could have known. But yeah, I'll probably get into this more, but I feel like we got a minor nugget for each class. But I don't want to be super dramatic and say it felt like a nothing burger, but it was like 95% just reading what's on the website, more or less. Like there was nothing else new except for these tiny little bits. Like about, I think the cleric one was about the tome. The druid one was about the different, aesthetic hero days for the different races. And the shaman just off, like kind of on the side, just mentioned this ability called Primal Fury, which is like a crit buff. But everything else pretty much was just info we've had for a really long time. So I'm actually like really disappointed. Like I was really hoping to hear some like new stuff. Because it's been a long time, and as a druid, like I mean, I've got my druid shirt that's like worn out. I made my background here, like, I'm like, I was.
You were
really
tailgating. You're tailgating for the druid.
Yeah, like because it's been so long,
and
So I gotta ask this though, Des. Would it be fair to say that you would have been disappointed? No matter what, if they did not announce that Druid was coming to PA.
No, I honestly, I had no hope at all that they were going to say it was coming to PA. I was just hoping we'd get some like new info is all.
I think and I understand the need for new info, but I think it's still like with PTV, it is a lot of discussion based, right? So it's discussion. Even if it is information we already had, it's still discussion on things. And delving into them a little bit. And for me, I mean, someone like I don't follow Pantheon as closely as a lot of people, so there was actually a lot of information that was new for me. So there was things that I was unaware of. I mean, it's been a long time since I did a class video on Pantheon. That's because I just kind of wanted to wait until it's more set in stone to do that. So it was, I mean, for an audience that may or may not, and I know Pardon the Veil tends to have a more I hesitate to say like hardcore audience because there's not going to be a bunch of gameplay footage, so it's going to be people that are really more interested in the game. So I can see your point from that perspective, but I still think it's helpful for people to get refreshers too and discussion about it directly from the team.
Right. And that's kind of like why I'm a little like disappointed, because like I definitely see the need for recaps, like catching people up if it's been a while. I'll
give you the shaman. I'll give you the shaman because that was very recent.
Well, yeah, and I mean, even we had a kind of talk about cleric, less than a year ago, I want to say, but like they got. Like I said, there was just like one tiny nugget for each class. But like new info, like it was almost like dragging out information from Joppa because he like mumbled something about lightning, and because chat was like kind of, on it there, he like kind of elaborated, but then it wasn't really elaborate. It was just like, I'm just going to like kind of mention something about weather and lightning. And then, everyone else gets to just, I guess, imagine, what that's supposed to be. I really don't like that kind of stuff where it's just like, we're just going to drop some words and, people get to kind of go on their own. I think like the information is good. The druid still is the class like I want to play, but yeah, as far as like information for what I thought, Parting the Veil is supposed to be kind of forward looking, right? It was just, not as much as I'd expect, but let's see how other folks feel.
I'm looking back and I'm thinking I'm the easy target then, because I was really excited about thinking about druids, and you're like, oh, it's nothing new, but I think maybe you've been thinking about it a lot more than I have, obviously. You know, but hearing how busy it sounds like druids are going to be, you know, and yes, there is a lot left to the imagination. I think that it's hard to balance that in a in a game development when we're still, you know, essentially really early, you know. I say we. I keep saying we. I don't know if you guys do this, but I say we as if I'm a part of the team.
At this point, you can say
you
that.
gotta disclose that. You gotta disclose that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm part of the team, and that's actually true. I feel like those who stick around and watch. I think most of us feel like we're connected, and maybe that's one reason we can be have rose-colored glasses sometimes on, like
right.
like I tend to do apparently, and also where we can be really critical as well. You know, to say, hey, this is something I was expecting, and I have real good reasons why I think it should. So, anyway, that's going off into a different direction. Except that to say, the last thing I want to say on that is, I think it's great that they're saying these to reiterate what they've already shown, because it has been some time, and people aren't reading the website necessarily as deeply as others. So I think this is hey, maybe you want to try out one of these other classes because they're pretty darn cool. And then, but at the flip side of that, it's going to change, at least a little. You know, I mean, Shaman changed.
Always subject to change. Yeah.
Monk has changed. Dire Lord has changed. So those are all going to change in some way. So anyway, just keep that in mind, everybody.
Yeah, of course. Well, let's get some folks in here, because we actually got a pretty hopping green room. So, I think I'm going to grab. So this person actually had one of the questions that they submitted. So this was answered, and I'm curious how they feel about this. So, Doug Bug, I see you. It looks like you're already unmuted. So I'm going to give you a heads up here, just so you're not frightened. But let's get you in here. Hey, Doug Bug.
Hey.
Welcome in.
Good evening.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep, I got you turned up too, so hopefully everybody can hear you.
So about my question, yes, I did ask that last question on kind of like the non-healing classes. Mine is put like etc. on the question, but I specifically said like lay of hands, healing song for the bard, and everything. So they just kind of touched on that a little bit. I didn't get as much information as I was hoping, like I wanted to know. But I do like the fact that each class is unique. I didn't like how in EverQuest, like a ranger just had like poor druid heals. Like just lesser versions. 100%. Everything should be its own thing. I like the uniqueness of it.
Yeah, that was a good nugget.
It took a long time. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, that was a good nugget, talking about how, like, if other non-healer classes have heals, they're going to have their own flavor. That was kind of like the boxed quote there.
Yeah, I mean, it took a very long time for an EverQuest, like the paladin eventually broke out, right? They became their own thing by becoming like a group, almost like a group healer, and having that kind of heal, but for a long time it was literally just the exact same spell.
Yeah, and when did Rangers ever break out? I don't think that ever happened in EverQuest.
Very late. They got like a faster heal. very late.
It still wasn't healing so much. Like you got it years late, at levels and levels late, too late.
Yeah,
and it was the same heal that the druids had at level 4. You got it like level 19. It was ridiculous.
Well, even take it further, healers had the same heals for a while. I mean, if you think about classic EverQuest, what superior heal was, I think, like what everyone maxed out at. They just got it at different levels, I don't even know if druids ever got superior heal. I think they may have just stuck it with greater healing, but it's all the exact same spells, just at different points, and that's how they differentiate.
Yeah. Which I think they've spoken on before
anyway.
That's true.
Yeah, and I think they've talked about those to like say that's not where we want to go. Like giving a class the same ability at different levels is like not class differentiation.
Right.
But,
So some other
sorry.
sorry.
I feel like
Some
I
other
must have
thoughts.
like a lag or something tonight because I keep
No, you're
talking
good.
over everybody.
Just some of the key things that you kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, Des, because you mentioned a lot of the things that I noted. But one thing I thought was really cool is one of the things I think Pantheon is trying to do is kind of this class identity. So I really like the idea of the tome for the cleric to like, if I see that, I know, oh, that's a cleric.
Yeah.
Same thing with.
Yeah.
I love the idea of the druid Herodi being able to change based on race. I think that's super cool. Again, it makes race selection a big decision for druid characters. And then it's funny, I'm like you, Rohan. I listened to that whole thing and I thought, oh my gosh, this druid class sounds so fun and so amazing. And it's like, it reminded me of like I think in chat I said something like, man, druids sound so hard. Like they just reminded, like it sounded like it's going to be a really difficult class, which they would probably be my second choice if bards at launch. That's what I want to play. I've always wanted to be a bard. That's what I played in EverQuest. But this would definitely be. It actually kind of reminded me of twisting. If I'm going to be using Herode to heal a person, and then I'm throwing out a little bit like it kind of reminded me of a WoW shaman in a way with this like a totem throwing like a tree down and having that have an area of effect heal. So yeah, I think for those of us who haven't poured over the website like you have. Probably does. Like,
I mean, I looked at the class page. I don't know about pouring. There's not much to pour over.
You analyzed it like Sherlock Holmes.
I looked at the class abilities that are on the class page.
I know. I understand. But I need things described to me in an anecdotal way. So to me, I was like, this sounds really fun. Yeah.
That's yeah. That's exactly what I was trying to get to, Doug Bug. Yes, thank you very much for saying that.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like the class refresh videos don't do it for me quite as much because it's just minus reading all these abilities and I sort of like gloss over. I want it explained to me in some dramatic fashion.
And that's the funny, because that's how I feel about this PTV. Is that like we were just kind of criticizing that format on the last rewind a little bit, and I think the reason this hit me so hard is because I was like fresh on my mind, and now it's like this just in verbal, purely verbal form. But it's good to hear that like it did hit right with some folks. So that's
yeah. I was excited about it, and I think it sounds fun. So
oh yeah, it does. That's why I'm choosing it.
So you just need to hear about the Necro and the Bard because there's no class pages for them yet. So
exactly.
Then that'll be new. Everything will be new.
Look, I made a video on the Necro without a class page.
I saw your comments in the chat too about the Necro. Yep, I'm excited about it.
Well, anything else, Doug, before we swap you out?
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I enjoy your guys' videos a lot.
Awesome,
thank you so much, Doug Bug.
Great thanks for popping in. This is awesome. It's great to have not just the same people.
Yeah, come again.
Will do. Sounds good.
There's nothing wrong with the same people, Des. There's plenty of the same people in the green room. Don't be rude.
That's what I'm trying to preface. Like I still really appreciate our regular people, if not more. But oh my gosh, Red, you were just talking about this. Churro Dude's got you covered.
Thank you, Churro.
Thanks, man. All right. So speaking of the same people, actually, maybe not the same people. We've had LaFail on a few times, and so I think I'm always really happy to have him on, especially because I know time zones are a little difficult. So go ahead and unmute yourself, LaFail, and we'll get you in here. Hey, bud.
Welcome in.
Hang on.
Oh, here. Let me turn you up.
Oh, quiet.
Yeah. Is it too soft?
There you go.
I got you now. I got you, man.
Yeah.
All right.
How's everyone?
Welcome.
Doing good.
Pretty good, man.
Good to hear.
What you got for us?
I thought I'd jump in just to give my 2 cents. So, for those who may or may not know, I'm not I don't participate in a PA test. So I'm just waiting patiently for it to be done, or maybe when I have a bit of spare time to upgrade my PC and
Which is
jump in.
great.
But
Mm-hmm.
one thing I've noticed of late is effectively I'm seeing a lot of people are just lethargic, and I get the reason why. For some of us who have been waiting so long for Pantheon, we are hearing effectively the same amount of information with a few beans here and there. But I understand why that's occurring is because now that we have this streamer program and we've had Co and P+ and a whole bunch of other people come on board, there's a whole new influx of interest in this game. So, I find it difficult to lay any blame on VR for focusing on a lot of this information that we've heard before, such as the class structure, class identity, and the various tenets of the game. I still like hearing it because it reinforces that VR, they are sticking to their design, their plan, and their approach. But at the same time, I get for some of us, it's kind of like it's difficult to keep interest when we're not actually visually seeing a lot of that development. That being said, I don't know what is going on behind, those pre-alpha tests. So there might be a lot of stuff there that the wider community just doesn't know about.
Yeah. And I mean, you could look at that in two different ways. Like I said, because the class pages have been, pretty much unchanged for years. And you could be like, well, they're sticking to their guns, right? And that, it hasn't had to change much. So I could see a positive side of that for sure.
I have this completely unfounded theory, and this is all me. There's no actual information behind this. Just prefacing that. But so if you remember the first PTV, it resulted in so many people talking about feature creep and accusations of it being Star Citizen and things like that, because you're talking about, I believe it was talking about taming, right?
I see. Yeah.
And,
the taming
and
one.
so that was looking forward, looking beyond, and then we saw a gradual shift in what PTV was, to where it was talking more things in depth, but not necessarily what the original pitch of PTV was, being this forward thinking thing. And I think that my theory is that it's kind of by design, because just they did that and saw that it may not be putting forth the image that they're wanting to put forth. Like I said, this is just my theory on that.
I mean, it makes sense. Makes sense of why it would kind of turn into more of just like a Q&A, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like what they're doing. I thought it was a good stream, a lot of good information. I do particularly like the differences in play styles and opportunities. It would be good to have a couple shamans in a group and them doing different things. So I do like where they're going. And I thought it was just a good banter there between the two. So as always, they're doing a great job. And I'm looking forward to seeing where we close out this year. I know it's a while away, but we're already almost halfway through. So
hard to imagine, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's about it for me. I got to jump back into work, but as always, thanks, guys.
Thanks for making the time, man.
Excellent.
I really appreciate it.
Love it. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
See you next time, man.
Take care.
Cheers.
Yeah, we only have VR has one job right now that's besides making a game as far as communication, and that is make the game sound fun. That's the one job they really have. I mean, the rest of it and digging in, yes, that is fun and that is more information, but especially Raphael hit it right on there. We have more people being exposed to it. I totally agree that make the game sound fun as much as possible, and then go from there. But anyway, that's what I have to say.
I got you. That's probably a very fair perspective for sure.
If you think, I mean, this is getting way beyond the scope of the healer PTV, but if you think about large scope of the information we received about Pantheon since its inception, it's almost like we got too much news early. So too much news in 2016,
I'd agree with that.
2017,
I would 100% agree with
2018. Even you had it being streamed, you had all different things happening, and then there was like kind of a reset. And now I think the cadence and the information is better if we hadn't had that initial burst. So I almost feel like for those of us that have been following for a long time, the last couple years even may seem a little bit off compared to what was being done in the first place. But I feel like that was perhaps too much too early. And I get why. I mean, it's a game that's crowdfunded. You need people to pledge. But
totally. So maybe I should clarify, just because this keeps coming up. Like, the information is like good. It's the same information. And if the classes sounded fun 4 years ago, like, it's cool. They still sound fun today, and they do. I think my issue that I just kind of touched on, but maybe should have emphasized more, is like when Joppa kind of started to talk about like the druid's damage stuff, like the lightning or the weather stuff, which obviously they have some info on that. Like, they don't need to leave that obscured. And it felt like it was just purposefully being teased and obscured when like it would have been pretty cool to like have some mechanical
That's
information, So I'm not trying to just be grouchy, but like,
I never think that, actually. I think you always have a good point. So
and I can see that. I can definitely see like the purposefully obtuse parts. I can see how that can be frustrating.
Yeah. Well, let's get let's get a Sarah in here. I usually end up either forgetting or bringing her in super late. So go ahead and unmute yourself, and I'll drag you in here, because I know Sarah is a ranger druid. So
a druid,
a dranger,
dranger.
So she's not unmuting. So I'm gonna actually move on to Mr. C. So Mr. C, it looks like you're already ready. So I'm just gonna pull you in here. All right, Mr. C.
Mr. C, I do not endorse any of Dez's comments earlier about not liking all the people that are regulars on this show. I appreciate you, Mr. C.
I know. I understand. We got Grumpy Dez over here.
Oh no! I know this is gonna stick too. So whatever.
Grumpy Dez. He's tired of hearing the same three things about druids, and throwing good-natured, consistent people like me to the side.
Good-natured. Good-natured. Very nice.
That wasn't intentional, but I'll take it.
Yeah, you just take it. That was good. So what are your thoughts, man?
This is probably the first I've heard about Druid in a while. I haven't really gone to the class page and like dissected every single ability. It's nice to hear. Based on what I've heard, this is probably the most realistic representation of a nature healer. Because usually in a lot of other MMOs, it's like, okay, there's leaves around you and you regen. Okay, that's it. You're done.
Yeah. I will say my EQ2, the whatever, like level 20 or whatever cosmetic thing that made the leaves spin around your character, it was just like a cosmetic thing. I love that. I always had it on.
Mm-hmm. The spells were cool in EQ2, especially the druid ones. The leaves were really cool.
I'm not down it. I'm just saying it's more realistic.
No, I actually there was a big conversation on the Discord, like the official Discord earlier, about like thematic druids, because obviously some people are attached to like the WoW druid, right, with a lot of the shape changing and the different kind of modes, right? And then there's other incarnations that embrace that. Like, I mean, we just played like Diablo 4 with werebear, werewolf, all that stuff. And I came into Druid more about like I would loosely say like historical Druid, which is more kind of like an ancient scholar. kind of a thing. And then you kind of get into the Celtic myths and all that, and but it ended up being more like just kind of nature related. And so I resonate with that a lot more. And so it does make me really happy I mean, you could see Herode as like, it's a nature spirit. Like that fits right in to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. This is where I might have heard this differently than how it was said, but it sounded like while Druid is complicated, you might be able to do it AFK decently. And if that is true, that would be a concern.
Just drop a tree or grow a tree and then get a snack.
Tree, throw Herode on the tank and just like walk away.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe for like a quick, like, get a glass of water, you put some proc heals on, like kind of get it all front loaded, and then, I don't know, maybe you could.
I mean, I think that's going to come down to like timing, right? Like how long does the tree last? Those kind of things,
right?
And if there's durations, I think the comments in chat were like about the AFK healing were mostly about I'm going to butcher pronunciation, Herode, like perfect auto attack healing, right? Like I think that was the main concern. If that's just like an infinite thing, but I'm sure that's something they will consider.
And I doubt it's going to be like a lot, right? Because the whole point was like using Herode actively as well.
Yeah.
And if it's not on the right target that you want to use activated stuff, which it would have been cool to hear about those skills, but
right.
There's going to be some strategy there. I'm just saying,
my imagination is good enough for me.
Yeah, just imagine whatever you think Herode can do. There you go.
Yep, Herode's making me the snack while I'm playing the game. So
Grix is 100% right. I know, like originally the Shannara series was totally a Lord of the Rings ripoff, and I don't care. But yes, 100% Grix, Alanon, and I'm gonna butcher. I can't remember. Brennan. Anything else, Mr. C? You like the thematics? You like the... Yeah.
I mean, it sounded very interesting. It's something I haven't seen in a druid. I wanted to bring up two little things.
Okay.
Have they talked about the cleric shield before?
Yep, many times. But yeah,
well,
it's like a physical shield.
Because I heard that, and I imagine a funny scenario where it's like, oh, there's a train coming. All right, we're going to put a shield there, and whatever's on the other side of that shield, we're going to let that happen.
And that's totally like a conversation that was had. I was like during one of the streams, like I think several years ago now, but was can you just like block a hallway with your cleric barrier? Which, creative use of abilities.
Well, what was new for me was you can get many different types, and they have different abilities, the shields, and that you can do different things with those shields. So, I liked that idea. I mean, I didn't know, maybe that is on the class page. I don't know. I'm
finding out I need to go like read it up on the website before I come back to another PTV.
Yeah.
Or Des is gonna be mad at me.
You're getting so much shade.
It's not even.
Sorry, Des.
It's not even like there's a lot on there. That's the funny thing. There's not even a lot on there, and so like.
Well, the reason I haven't read it is because it's going to be outdated soon. Mm-hmm. So why invest all this time when it's going to get changed eventually, anyways?
Mm-hmm. I mean, eventually, but again, we were just talking about how the stuff they said tonight hasn't changed since they put the new website up. It's literally
but it's going too soon.
Is it? Oh. If it's going to change soon, why would we not talk about it? All right, I'm
all right.
I'll
you have many amazing points. I totally agree with you. Everyone
But-
get out of the green room. We just agree
No,
with
no,
Des now.
I want positive, like people to be positive about stuff. I'm just like,
I'm
just
going to
how
end this.
am.
I'm going to end this on a slightly higher note and not just being a Debbie Downer.
Desi Downer. That's
A
the
Desi
name.
Downer.
Yeah. Yep.
You're going to have many names and you won't like any of them.
Yep. Probably.
No, I was going to say the shaman shrink and how they said that you would need the shaman shrink to access new areas, and I thought that's very interesting because
That is very interesting.
previously in like EQ, shaman shrink was just all right. You're shrinking so that you don't take up so much real estate in raids or groups or whatever. But it's interesting to come to like a small hole and say, oh, we can't go in there. We don't have a shaman. And then go in there. There's like a cool quest and stuff like that.
I would.
So I think that's what makes Pantheon interesting.
Yeah, I really like that mechanic, and I would say that the keen of eye on the streams that have been put out so far might find a use for such an ability. I'll just leave it at that.
It's going to be like the preschool going on a bear hunt song. You come up to the hole, I can't go over it. We're going on up. Do you guys know that song? My wife teaches preschool, so maybe it's just.
I know. I didn't know 3 seconds ago, but then you made me remember something from 30
I'm
years ago.
going
So
on
thanks.
a bear hunt.
The song's not on the website, ManOfRohan. I don't.
Oh my gosh! Oh, geez.
Desryn quits Parting the Veil +U next month.
I think it just needs to be you guys, and everybody will be happy, and yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah, me, Redbeard, and all the regular people are gonna have our own podcast.
It's a mutiny,
and it's gonna have cakes, it's gonna have cookies, it's gonna be so much better.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm down.
Our rose-colored glasses firmly in place.
All right. Let's see. That was 2 things, right? Or did you have?
I'm done.
All right.
Thanks, Mr. C.
I'm just happy that we have enough people in the green room that I have to kick you out. So. Just kidding. I love having you here.
What a night.
This is the start of Den's
Thanks,
villain
Mr.
arc,
C.
and it all started with a druid.
See you, Mr. C.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mr. C.
Oh, geez. The plot thickens.
I think Sarah may be back.
All right. Sarah. I said I would get you next, so just go ahead and unmute, and I'll pull you
in. Maybe she left again.
Oh, man.
Maybe people are scared to come in.
Oh, no, there she goes.
There she
All right. I was afraid I'd be skipping you again.
Hey, it's Sarah.
Right. Hey.
Oh, my Wi-Fi sucks. It's like we're actually gonna get a quote for a hard line finally, which I don't know where they're gonna wire that in this house, but I can't take it anymore, you guys. It's killing me.
Mm-hmm.
Wi-Fi's hard.
Anyway, dude, Wi-Fi, it sucks.
So you have an interest in both Druid and Ranger. I remember you were very unsure about like which you were going to go through. I know you kind of like your identity's a little more in the Ranger now, but obviously you have some interest in this one. So
yeah, I'm still unsure. It kind of depends on what they end up doing with Ranger. Like they end up giving the Ranger as much utility as they're giving the Rogue, which from what we've seen so far, it looks like they will be. So it looks like the Ranger's going to be super fun. So I'll probably end up there, but I have really been enjoying being in the more, magic-y spell casting realm lately, and Druid would definitely be my second choice if Ranger is first. We'll see.
The Nature Wizard.
Yes. I'm all about the Nature Wizard. It's been fun listening to the conversation tonight so far, though. Des, I was starting off thinking like I'm with you, and I was really kind of honestly disappointed in this stream, thinking that like parting the veil, and I didn't feel like they parted it very far. But then hearing other people's, opinions who aren't, I guess as deeply immersed in Pantheon as we are, and they seem really happy about it. So it's interesting to see the two kind of, sides of the coin there, where the people who are in it really deep are feeling like it was a little lackluster, and then the people who aren't in it every day, they're feeling like they got enough beans and they're happy with what they heard. So I'm glad to hear that, the non-PA testers and the people who are just, here also are happy with it.
I'm happy too. I'm happy. Like, I don't want to bum anyone out, but I'm also not going to pretend I'm like, that's
Right.
I was
You shouldn't.
hoping for more beans. I agree.
Aren't
I
we
agree
all?
with you, Des. Like, I feel like they didn't really say much that wasn't already on the website,
But Sarah,
which,
But what they
I guess
said was
it's good
still
to
good.
refresh that every now and then. But what they said
Sarah,
was good. But I mean,
we got
yeah.
like 3 mentions of Necromancer. That is not on the website.
So-
That's not who
yeah.
the stream was supposed to be about.
I know Red
It
is
still
hyped.
happened.
That's
Like,
how I feel.
he is all
They
about
sort of heal.
selfish support, which
They-
Yeah, I
could
feel like
mean
I heard more
reviving your
about other
allies.
classes than I did the classes I was told I was going to hear about. So what the heck? They talked more about paladins than they talked about druids.
Ow.
That's how I felt.
I mean,
We don't need paladins anymore because the clerics can
right?
do DPS.
Claire, I think
Yeah.
that was another kind of like revealing just how similar it seems cleric and paladin are, which I know it's come up a few times. I'm still really curious how they're going to differentiate the paladin with how the cleric is now, for sure.
Yep, I was thinking
Well,
that too.
I mean, the main thing is the paladin can tank, right?
Yeah.
Grix
But
is
can
asking what. Grix is asking what would have made us happy to hear. And what would have made me happy to hear is just basically anything that I didn't already know from the website. I mean, hearing that Herode is going to have different forms was cool, but I also kind of suspected that already. Like, that honestly wasn't really news. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I would have been happy with something
And
new
it's just
that's like
cosmetic too.
not something that I suspected. Right.
It really, again, like for me, it's just that it seemed like there was information there that was obscured. That's what gets me. So
The lightning and weather type things, yeah.
Hey, you can be a mountain, I heard. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
I know, like, I would have liked to hear something concrete about that also. Like, what that, I don't know. Like, here's where we had started off with this roadmap, and here's where we are today. And I didn't feel like we got that.
Yeah.
It does sound like we're going to get more in the newsletter. But yeah.
Yeah, the newsletter's usually got some good info. There was something else that you just mentioned that sparked something in my brain. Well, are you rolling a Druid alt
of
then?
having part of the Veil? Oh yeah, totally. Druid will be this, if not the first, the second class I make.
What's the point? The point is so that you have an after show with us. That's the whole. That's
Yes,
the point.
that's right.
I mean,
that's why I'm here tonight. That's 100% the reason.
this is VR throwing us
like,
a bone, okay?
I love the newsletter, but I feel like if you're gonna take the time to have a show like Parting the Veil, I don't know, maybe just have a little bit more than a website regurgitation.
Yeah, well, like again,
That's
like I said,
very
each
valid.
class got one little bit. Maybe one ish. And again, there was the shaman.
I'm greedy. What can I say?
Oh, I hear you. I'm devil's advocating myself, I guess, because I don't. But like shaman's crit buff, I'm pretty sure that's the first note of the crit buff, which is really cool. clerics with their tome having like
Mhm.
to not use their offhand slot for the tome. I think everyone liked that.
The visual of that sounded really cool, honestly.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah.
floating around you, that was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And the Herode different forms, but again, that's just was aesthetic. But there was stuff in there. You just have to dig for it.
Yeah, I thought the like Herode not like being like a pet but different than a pet, and like the way Herode is going to heal was the most interesting thing that they said about the druid. Obviously, they talked about other classes. I only care about the druid. I thought that was the most interesting thing they said about the druid. Maybe I hadn't 100% knew or even kind of thought before, so that was the biggest bean drop for me. But yeah, I can't help but feel like I just wanted more.
The one
Always,
thing I want to point to though, because it is Parting the Veil has kind of turned more like we're talking earlier to like a Q&A type thing.
yeah.
But I mean, the questions were answered, and I felt like the questions were being answered sufficiently, and those questions are coming from the community. So even if it's stuff that's on the website, there's still people in the community asking those questions.
Actually, on that note, I will totally own up to this because I've had an opportunity to submit questions and I spaced. I did not get I literally I saw the announcement to like, hey, we got all the questions, and I was like, crap.
I've done that before too. I submitted.
Dang it, man. So I just have no room to talk then.
For not.
Yep.
This was your chance.
Yeah, maybe that's on us for not asking better questions, but
sorry,
the one they picked
everywhere.
was will the druid be fun? Yeah.
Yeah.
The druid would be fun.
Yeah, but
someone
the
in chat's
telling
like,
question is, tell us about the druid. So I think there is certainly other people who are feeling the way maybe they have read and they like, I need to know more, and I think that's true. So what you guys are saying is valid. Parting the Veil should be the deeper dive into what's coming up and what the designs are, what the systems are, what the So I agree.
Cool.
Yeah, I feel like probably
around
the reason. I feel like the reason why the mass response was "tell me something" was because there's like, "give me anything" is what people were saying, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, anything else before we swap you out?
Well, don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. I feel like I'm usually the super hyper excited one, so that's
we got a nice balance.
That's what happens when you don't give me enough beans. What can I say?
Give Sarah
Thanks,
more
guys.
beans or else. All right.
Thanks,
See
Sarah.
ya.
That's right.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right. There is a name that I don't see in actually two names I don't see very much in the green room. And one I don't think I've ever actually gotten.
About Mr. Cottleshire again?
No. I'm talking about Mr. Drac.
He's a regular.
The non-nature druid. So I don't think Drac has ever gotten in the green room when we're doing the P+U2. So this could be potentially really fun. So, all right, he's unmuted. So let's get him in here. Hey, Drac.
What is going on
here?
Hey, Drac.
Are you leading another show somewhere else?
Yeah.
As well.
I'm streaming it in another dimension right now.
He's also raiding at the same time too.
Yes, absolutely.
It's pretty impressive what a pro.
Have we paid Drac's appearance fee for this show?
In eggs, please.
In eggs, yeah.
Also, I'm here, number one, and first and foremost, before everything else, to dispel the nature wizard rumor.
Oh my god!
Twisted garbage about nature wizards. You are not a nature wizard. You are a druid. You are lesser, and to even mention yourself with wizards is blasphemous. So just get out.
Wow. Well, your roleplay game is strong. Your arrogance, the arrogance is strong in you.
Oh no, he believes that to his core.
I know that you used to be a healer, so I'm going to choose to not take offense. But yeah, I mean, honestly, we don't know how much of a nature wizard we are or are not at this point. So,
but there will be lightning.
I heard lightning. Yeah,
there was
there's
a mumbling
definitely
of lightning.
And trees. We have trees.
And trees.
Yeah,
Which isn't,
sounds
historically
pretty
a great combo. Just throwing that out.
I heard a rumor that to get the
Forest
healing
fire.
out of the tree, you actually have to go hug it first.
I mean, yeah, the closer you are to the tree, the more healing you get. So, like,
That's actually true. That's amazing. I didn't
really
think about that.
get in there.
All right, but the second and more important reason that I needed to get on the show, which I don't think I have actually been on the show
Yeah,
before,
I don't think so, man.
but I need you to walk me through this, because I'm just like, I feel like maybe I missed something somewhere. Maybe I just missed it. So I thought before the stream that it was druids had the biggest heals. Just
That has been said before. Yes,
they were the clerics of Pantheon. They had the direct heals, right?
Shaman had said.
Yeah, Shaman had the heal over time, so nothing really changed there.
And clerics had the shields.
Cleric had the shields. So now that's just all out the window, and so now clerics are back to EQ clerics, where they have the biggest direct heals. That's kind of what I got out of this stream, right?
That it was said, yeah.
Yeah, and then Shaman are still healed over times, and druids are kind of
the complicated
WoW Shaman
heal
with totems. WoW Shaman with totems.
See, and this is like this is where like my memory, like I'm trying to remember things, and like because I remember hearing about druids being reactive heals like quite some time ago, like that it's been that way for a while.
Yeah,
that they're the reactive healer. So not only like the biggest heals, but just like that they have reactive. And I was thinking of it in terms of like actually is a cleric spell, but Mark of Karn from EverQuest, that's kind of like where my thought process was with druids, like reverse damage shields and stuff like that, and potentially wards or something like that. But that was, I don't remember when that was or where I'm getting that information.
Well, I just feel like the healers got upended in my mind. Like I thought I had them like figured out, and now I have no idea.
Yeah, at least as far as the information we have, it seems maybe the clerics have been kind of massaged around a little bit. Kind of like, right. I mean, the shamans got a little bit refined recently too, right? So there's some movement there.
Yeah, definitely.
And as someone in chat kind of pointed out, like I'm gonna kind of take a bit out of this and put it in my own words here, but I kind of feel like maybe just testing may have just proven that barrier healing wasn't a great primary way. I would say, healers in EQ2, defilers and shaman mystic. Oh, there we go. Their primary was barrier, and it was pretty cool. But in testing, if something turns out to like not be good, not be fun, I feel like they have a right to change it.
Did they say that it wasn't fun?
No, but would they?
Not tonight.
I didn't.
Is it on the website? That's the real question.
I don't know. But also, I really got to stir the pot now. I'm going to get, you might say, inflammatory.
Because this stream has been so not contentious at all, Drag. Why don't let's fire it up some more.
Let me just swirl it around a little bit. Let me just turn up the heat, as the wizards say. Battle cleric is dead. Full stop.
You think so? Even though he emphasized it.
Nope.
I think he emphasized it.
It doesn't matter. As a mechanic, right? As because when I heard them describe the cleric before, battle cleric was the mechanic for the cleric, right? it was being described as this is how the cleric would function. Not like you could do this, but this is what the cleric is. Like a shaman's hots or like the druid's trees or seeds or whatever, right?
I'm kind of gonna have to disagree with you on that because I think that it was reinforced that you to play a cleric, you get up in the face of it. You have to be like you're not sitting back.
That's actually no. He left room.
No, he said like, you could.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing.
And from every other MMO that I've ever played, nobody wants their healer unless they have to be up in the middle of the melee. So if you have the option to be in the back, then it's almost 95% of the time better if your cleric is in the back. Can you do battle cleric? Well, yes, absolutely. You can 100% do battle cleric, but it's almost always the worst option.
See, I feel like there was a slight, like there was definitely a, like if there was a slant towards one thing, it's a slant towards these clerics are up in the thick of it. I mean, when they're talking about what describes a cleric, it's a cleric who wants to be up in the midst of it. That was like almost a direct quote. Like I'm probably paraphrasing here, but that was like one of the main things is if you want to be a cleric, you want to be in the midst of it, as in melee combat.
He said if you want to wade into combat is what he said.
Right. I feel like this stream they backed away from that and they said but I'm saying before they said no, the cleric is up front, it's in the battle. To do your heals, you have to be in the front lines.
Yeah, it was kind of like they talked about the melee, the upfront and everything, and then it was kind of, then he was like, if you want to like hang back more classic traditional sense, like yeah.
Now I feel like it's totally optional. You can do whatever you want.
But I feel like that's putting what Joppa said. I feel like that's putting too much of like it's optional. It doesn't. I didn't get the feeling of it being optional as much as you can. Like I think there's a difference between being optional versus you can, because you can do lots of things. That doesn't mean that it's the optimal way. It sounds like still the optimal way to play is by being up in melee. We don't know exactly how, but it sounds like everything I was hearing about the cleric today.
Joppa said, if you want to play a cleric that stands in the back and heals, you can.
That's what I'm saying. You can. Like that's the wording does it, and especially with how much time was spent on the class fantasy of being a cleric up in the middle of the fight. Like there was a lot more talked about with meleeing as a cleric than standing back.
I think Drac is just saying that like if it's effective, it's better than melee just because of the dangers of melee.
Right. Absolutely. And no MMO up to this point. So unless you think VR is going to strike, which is possible, is going to strike a balance that no other MMO that I have ever played has done, which is that a melee cleric is more optimal than a standing in the back healing cleric.
Drac,
Mr. Cottleshire,
you're gonna be in the back.
I gotta say this because Mr. Cottleshire says you can be a melee enchanter.
Exactly,
you can, but it's not great.
But Drac, I know you stopped playing until recently EverQuest at Planes of Power, right?
Oh, here we go.
No, I was playing Thornblade. I played all the way up to.
No, I know. There was a callback to like 2 years ago.
Sorry. Yes.
But in EverQuest, it becomes required for wizards and mages to melee for top DPS.
Drac hates it.
It becomes a requirement for them to melee. So, like, I'm just saying, like, there's the ability for being up in the midst is, I think, something that it doesn't necessarily mean that all AoEs are going to be right centered right there on the creature, right? You could have you can have AoEs that are hitting outside of the area, so maybe it is better in certain fights to be closer to the thing. I think it's the idea of clerics or healers in general need to be hidden away is a very EverQuest from like through like Velius kind of thing where you hid your clerics around the corner.
You do that in every MMO. You do it in New World, you do it in ESO, you do it in Final Fantasy. Like it's every MMO.
But well, not in Final Fantasy. There's actually a bunch of AEs that are like that attack the outside instead of the inside. Same with World of Warcraft. There's a lot more movement that happens, but there's also not clerics that do that. But Warhammer Online was all about the clerics that were up in your face. I mean, and that's the feeling I was getting.
But those
about
clerics
when they're talking about it.
But those clerics were required to do that to maintain healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. You've taken away the requirement to do that. You've taken away what I consider to be a class mechanic of I have to do melee damage, I have to be in the middle of stuff to do my healing. So that would make it so the cleric has to be in the melee. You've taken that away.
We'll see, because that all depends on the content, right?
And it depends on how good the things are that you get from meleeing. And things are going to change. We have crits back. Right, backstab is back for rogues. True. So things are going to change. So I just want to remind everyone who's listening, things are going to change as we can continue to go on. And it totally could be that they find out, man, did it suck to do that. We're going to have to think of something else. I
know that Fate wants to. Apparently, I stole her whole topic. So it's jump on and argue with you guys too.
It's good that got brought up though, right? Because like we were just talking about how a lot of things have like stayed the same, and when they kind of like say one thing and then like but give room for another, it's like I don't know. It's worth mentioning just in case that wasn't what they're intentionally trying to say or whatever. So that's good, Drag.
All right,
but thanks for popping on. Like
write it down. May 18th, 2023. Battle Clerks died.
Battle Clerk died.
All right. See you, Drag.
You can just see Drag dropping his mic right now, like taking it off of the mic stand to drop it.
Pretty much. He said what I said. Anyway. So yeah, Vendini already knows what's up, and I'm sure it's probably super late for him to select.
Super late for me.
Let's get the Druid in here. The best healer in the world, Vendini.
But not the nature wizard, apparently.
Oh, Fate is totally going to be the caboose again.
I'm sorry.
Dudes, what is up?
Hey, Vendini.
Long time listener, first time caller, actually. Just came on here to support my brother Des. Solidarity to Desryn, because I agree. Like, number one, if you're interested in a game, take 10 seconds and read the 5 skills that are on the website for the class and figure it out. Okay?
Ouch.
Figure it out.
Ouch, man.
Take 10 seconds. Just go on the website. Take 10 seconds. I would like to see a little bit more on Herode, like Des said, not seen, but heard a little bit more. On
like the abilities, like that are supposed to be activated. Yeah,
100%. I'd like to hear a little bit more on that. What else did I have? A little bit of information on the 1 to 10 experience. I don't want every single skill from 1 to 10. Just give me a little glimpse of what Druid is 1 to 10.
Yeah, I would more prefer just kind of a pick of all different stuff, like give us a high level, mid level, low level, like just a few little bits from each. Just to get a little bit, because right now we don't really have much of an idea of like what any of the classes are going to be like at endgame, except for we had the combat tactics stream. I think was the most recent time we saw high level characters. And
what was they mentioned a skill? I'm trying to remember what it was, and I can't remember which healer it was for, but it was like a later skill. That sounded like it was much later, but I'm blanking on what it was now. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but there was a skill. Yeah, from this stream.
Hurry the Past for the shaman.
I talked about the shaman.
Was that the one? Okay. Oh yeah. Hurry the
but
Past.
that wasn't like a later thing. 20. I think he said level 20. Yeah. You guys.
Okay, I mean that's double.
But we
double level 10, Des.
But that's not even a new skill. It's
anyways. I don't want to get Des all fired up again. I just want to come here.
Thank you.
Show my support. I agree with Des.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the solidarity.
I think there's been a lot of solidarity for Des. Honestly, I kind of feel like the general mood of this is. I make sure, like, for a casual follower of the game, it was probably a fun stream. But for anyone who's modestly interested in the stream, it was a little disappointing.
Yes, for anyone that has no access to the internet that can't look up a web page, it was a really informational stream.
So wait,
still
but
felt good.
Sarah is the one that
You guys
has
shut
the
up.
internet issues.
Made me feel good inside.
That's
We're not gonna yuck anyone's yum. All right. But thank you, Vin. I appreciate it, man.
It's good. I agree. I think it was more targeted at people that don't follow as closely as some of us. But again, take 5 seconds. Go read the website.
Wait, now it's down to 5 seconds.
That's a good plug.
10 seconds. If you're a slow reader, 10 seconds. 5 seconds, you can probably burn through it.
Yeah. There you go.
Anyways, I'm out. Mic dropping. I'm out. Thanks for having me on.
See you, Vin.
See you, Vin.
Thank you, Vendini.
Oh my gosh, that was great. She should come on more. All right. Yeah, Fate. I'm sorry. Here we go.
Bye, Fate.
I'm sorry.
Welcome to the
Thanks,
end.
Sparrow.
The caboose.
Oh,
It's been a long night.
the new caboose.
I just want to say I gotta agree. Also, have to agree with Des that it was like as soon as they started talking about the shaman at the beginning, I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of
There's
those.
a lot about the shaman.
Yeah, it's like we just heard about the shaman, and then we get
It's
to
it's
hear about the
shaman
shaman
month.
again.
Yeah, it's shaman
Yeah.
month. May is shaman month. Maybe.
And then it wasn't that long that I feel like that we heard about the cleric really, and nothing had really changed about the cleric, and so then yeah, it was just a refresh. It was a healer refresh as opposed to like the usual, because like it's usually a lot of theory stuff and that sort of thing. And I feel like we didn't get a lot of theory tonight. We just got a refresh on like what's been talked about. I am glad Drac brought up the barriers though, because that was something that just kind of quietly got retired, and I assumed that they were simply having trouble balancing them and removed them until they could figure it out.
Well, just to kind of interject there a little bit, because so when we're talking about barriers, because there's like different terminology with different games, right? So
that's true.
We're thinking damage prevention. So some people call it a damage shield. Some people call it a ward. Something that stops damage without like specifically healing or whatever. And so that wasn't really talked about much, but they did still mention the physical barrier, like the actual, like you put a thing up and it stops the damage. So that's still there, to be clear.
Yeah, the bubbles or the wards, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I think everyone's probably going to call it bubble.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real.
Yeah, bubble. Was that WoW? Was the bubble shaman? Was it a bubble shaman in WoW? That
I don't remember. Maybe.
Oh, the paladin bubble wasn't that the like invincibility move?
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably what I'm thinking of then.
Bubble hearth.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, I actually did mostly want to talk about the cleric, but of course Drac brought it up already. Was the like melee versus standing in the back. My point was actually going to be like, oh, it's okay, Drac. My point was going to be that less about them killing the melee cleric or the battle cleric, I should say, because it sounds like that's still going to be an option. But my point was that like when you make it an option, people are going to pick whatever's optimal. And
at least gravitate. Like the majority of people will kind of gravitate towards it. Yeah.
And it's probably gonna. Let's be realistic. The more optimal one is probably going to be also the safer one, where you're standing back and you're not generating as much aggro. You're not generating as much mana as well, since I believe that they've talked about how attacking with the cleric is supposed to generate mana. But if you can get a tome, that regenerates your mana. Although I noticed they kind of sidestepped that actual question about like,
Yeah.
will you need tomes to regenerate your mana? And then instead of talking about that, they talked about it not taking up a slot.
Yeah, I guess that would be kind of a wrench in the whole thing, right? As if it still is a matter of meleeing to regen your mana, like that might still be the thing.
Yeah, that could still be the thing, the main thing, but like, will tomes change how you play? Like, can you get tomes that like they boost the amount of mana you regenerate, or that per hit per attack, or they just
Maybe.
boost your flat regeneration or something like that?
They mentioned something like that. They were talking about different tomes that you can quest for, that you can different orders, different things like that. So that would make sense.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That was again another thing that was
my
like
concern
an example would have been, you know, helpful.
Yeah, an example would have been nice. Yeah, but my concern was with the optimal, because like gamers are always going to pick the optimal path. There's going to be the people out there who don't pick the optimal path. They pick whatever's fun, and I've certainly done that many a time. But for the most part, especially when it comes to like the higher end gameplay, it's like you tend to see some of those options just kind of disappear and never get used, because there's an option that's much more optimal, and I just feel like that's probably what's going to end up happening to the cleric, is standing in the back and healing is going to be the optimal path. I remember someone brought up Disciple of Cain in Warhammer Online, and that's what happened in Warhammer Online as well. Is that I actually played a Disciple of Cain, and I played a battle healer where I was up with the tanks. So I was keeping the tanks healed by dealing damage. But after a while, I just had to admit that it wasn't very effective. That like my damage wasn't enough to be making a difference, and my healing wasn't enough to be making a difference, and that I needed to switch either pure damage or pure healing.
Yeah, and on that same note, like someone mentioned, it's just called Disciple for Vanguard, and they were melee healers, kind of a more like a monk healer, and they were terrible ranged healers. Like they had group heals, but they cost so much energy or mana, like it was not the way to go.
Probably the only one that I can think of that I've seen before that did a good job, it was the Friar in Dark Ages of Camelot. But that's because the Friar was kind of overpowered. They were a really good healer and a really good melee DPS. They were really good at both of them, to the point that they could do a lot. They could stand up with the other melee DPS as well as standing up with the other healers. So it's not a great example, because they were kind of a little on the broken side of things.
But they had a great haircut too, Friars. Don't forget that. I'm just kidding.
That's going to become an option, like a character creation option now.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna the balance is gonna be so crazy, and they might find out.
Well, Joppa himself said that no developer ever hopes to be able to balance that kind of stuff, right? Now, he was talking about balancing healers against each other, specifically for having a favored tank. But the situation really isn't any different. And Joppa himself said that you can't balance that. And you won't be able to balance a melee versus a sit-down cleric.
Wait, no, I thought the talk about balancing was more about not wanting a favored healer. Like you just had one healer and everyone else kind of sucked.
Well, I believe specifically he was talking because somebody asked about like will healers have favored tanks? Like will
I think there was two parts where the balance came in. One of the questions was like about like just like a one healer, like the cleric being the healer and the other two being subpar. And then there's another question about which ones will work better with, and that was when you got the answer of the druid being the generalist healer, the shaman working well with the dire, and then the cleric working well. Wait, what was the cleric working well with the paladin due to the undead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he said that would be more an accident of design, really.
They're
than
not
actual
designing
balance.
for it. Yeah, that's kind of like the main thing. They're probably looking out for situations where like one class is going to be super prevalent, but they're definitely not trying to make these pairings of like, because you could say the paladin and the cleric are thematically similar and do have like natural things together, but in that same sense, if both classes are really good against undead, it might not be the best pairing in a different situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's kind of Pantheon in a nutshell, is that we're supposed to have such a variety of situations that it makes meta really hard, right?
Right,
so
and that's
expect
kind of
that.
what I was talking about with the cleric, like the cleric sitting back being optimal. We don't know how that's going to work. I mean, honestly, we haven't had a whole lot of conversation on Pantheon in general about raids. Raids are not really a big subject that's talked about. They were talked about more in the early few years, but they've been more talking about groups and group things like that. And I don't know, like, who knows how they're going to actually balance that around, different things happening within the encounter and things like that. Whether it will be things like they have things happening on the outskirts versus the in, and so the idea of it being, that's why I kept going back to the idea of it being safer by sitting back. That's not really what I see in MMOs now. That's what I see in MMOs in the early 2000s. Once they started even in EverQuest, that's not even necessarily what happens anymore, because you have so many things that go on beyond the general area. So if you mean sitting back by kind of being in the mid range, sure, but there's lots of different things that happen now in raids that make it so there really isn't an optimal position to be in a lot of cases, at least in my experience.
It's almost like we've learned. Over time.
Yeah, well, and it's almost like the tech has advanced enough to allow them to program different things and kind of appreciate the idea that in EverQuest everyone just stood around a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really hope that they figure out how to make it work, because I do want to experience that. I don't want to be the sit back healer.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice to have the battle cleric back, to have them be forced into melee, and for it to be extremely suboptimal for them to sit back, to make the obvious path and have a lot of their abilities revolve around them being in melee. Because otherwise, you go into something else I wanted to talk about, which was like the homogenization of the healers, which I don't think we're more in danger of it, but I don't think we're in a lot of danger of it. But we're more in danger of it than we were before. When you start talking about these two things are going to be equal options for the cleric, and we've also removed the cleric bubbles, and and we've moved them to be basically more direct healing again.
Maybe.
So now we've got two direct healing classes, maybe, possibly. They might bring the bubbles back. We never know. They haven't talked about them. It would have been a nice opportunity for them to talk about them tonight, but they didn't talk about them. So they haven't. The bubbles just kind of quietly disappeared. The barriers just kind of quietly disappeared. So we don't really know what's up with that.
The barriers weren't talked about. The bubble was. So.
Yeah. Yes. Wait. No. The physical barrier was.
Yeah. That's what when I think of the bubble, that's right. It's
no. Usually people when they talk about bubble, they talk about something that absorbs up the damage and then disappears.
Okay. That's just yet another term for the same.
Because in EQ2 there were wards, and then in EverQuest they were runes, and then in the Camelot they were bubbles, and and then in another game they were blade shields or something like that.
This is why defining terms is so important.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The confusion when I started playing WoW for the first time, and I was using root and snare to mean, rooting and then getting slowed down. because that's how most other games have done it, and specifically how EverQuest did it. And then everybody was like, "What are you talking about? What's a root?" Like, I don't know what that's talking about because EverQuest had, or because WoW had snare and slow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and snare and EQ is not yeah. Anyway, yeah. So terms. There was something you mentioned, with since we've kind of been talking about the whole cleric possibly being able to be sit back. One theme that they mentioned, which I'm generally in favor of, and I'm glad they did emphasize it again tonight, was about gearing, because there was this question about. It was mostly about like what's it called, like the off. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the word. Flex. We've been calling flex, right?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, my brain just stopped right there. Flex.
Because it's 10:30.
Yeah. Well, it's early for me, so I feel bad for you guys.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, so with flex, being able to more lean into a certain thing with your gearing rather than specifically like your class being like, we keep bringing up the rogue, but it's a good example, right? It's like DPS that can flex into CC, where healers are just kind of like, we're healers, we have a lot of utility. If we want to kind of like emphasize a certain kind or a certain gameplay style, we can gear for it. And maybe, just leaving this out there, maybe the cleric can gear for that style. The question is just balance, right? Like, because if that style is generally superior, people will gear for it. But then paladins will probably be happy because I'm sure they'll say, share the same gear. So,
well, that's it's funny because I was wondering if anyone else like had this same thought process when they're talking about gearing for like flexing into something. And I know that specs are not a thing in Pantheon, right? But I was just, it brought me back to thinking about when in World of Warcraft, when you used to have different sets of gear for different specs. And they've gone away from that now, right? Mm-hmm. But you had like this complete alternate set, and in order to do that different spec, you had to go and get new gear. Like there wasn't any just, I decided I want to be a healer today, so now I'm just gonna change my spec to healer. Like it's like, no, you need to go grind a bunch of gear to become a healer, and none of that gear is gonna work on your DPS spec. And that's, I'm not saying that's what they're doing. It's just what immediately came to mind.
I don't know. It actually does kind of sound like they're doing that.
At least leaving the option. Like perhaps I want to be a nature wizard, and I will gear myself accordingly.
Or a battle cleric.
For instance, if we use the cleric, the battle cleric, and we know like wisdom and constitution from like a stream like a while back, or the healing stats, right? But like if you're wanting to be battle cleric, you might want to be going like more strength. You might be going like strength, constitution, and constitution might have a less of an effect on your healing than wisdom will.
There's a lot of room for them to, pull various strings to incentivize players into different play styles. But I would argue that that's a lot more interesting way to do it than just forcing the class by, all of their abilities having to be, this certain gameplay style. So it's cool to me that they leave it at least a little bit ambiguous. So we'll just have to see how it plays out.
I don't know. At the same time, Joppa did say that, like, well, actually it was Minus that said it, but Joppa agreed that, like, they do want a certain, when you play a class, they want a certain play style to an extent. And, so for you are, when you, I think it would actually be better if they were very upfront with, like, if you pick this class, you will be doing this for the most part. You can also do these other things, but even when you like maximize your flexibility, you'll still be doing the main thing that your class was designed for.
It almost feels a little bit to me like, because there was a very full-throated, like, you're picking this class, there is no specializations, this is what your class role is. And that was after they made the change, because it used to be on the website you had 2 roles, right? So you had tank plus DPS. And then there was a quick shift that was like, they can do that. Like it's a flex, but that's not their role. So like a monk can off tank, but their role is DPS. A rogue can CC, but their role is DPS. So it became like a very full, like, that is what you do. And then in a really bad situation, you can fill in, right? But it kind of feels, I mean, and this might just be my opinion, but it kind of feels like that's inching back a little bit more. And I think it's a little bit different with the healers, because, I mean, like the flex for the shaman is about debuffing, right? And that
it's more specific kind of support.
Yeah, that just sounds role. Like, yeah, like I think what was the term they used? Like anti-damage is the term used, and that just sounds like how they heal. Like it doesn't sound like as much like a flex to me as just that's how the class works. But it does like a little bit.
Maybe
damage prevention through lowering the enemy's ability to deal damage.
Yeah.
Which like a lot of people will point a lot of people will point out in EverQuest that shamans in a way were the most powerful healers, because they could slow the enemy, and they could slow them a lot. They could slow them down to like 25% of their original attack speed, which means that their damage output is 75% less, which is gonna trump almost any other kind of healing that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that, because that's a creative, I wouldn't even say creative use, but it's a non-standard way to accomplish something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need more of that in MMOs.
And more battle clerics.
More battle clerics.
And nature wizards.
But yeah, I can see that my guys are starting to fade. Anything else here fade?
I'm sorry.
No. No.
All right. Well, I'm sorry that you've become the new Caboose. Get used to all of your talking points being taken.
Yeah. Oh well, I still found something to talk about. That's good.
Yeah. Well, all right. Have a good night, Fate. Thanks a bunch for modding and doing all the stuff. Yeah. Good night.
Night.
Well, guys.
All right.
This is a late one. I appreciate you bearing with me.
I could eat my Wheaties. A late one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't. I have no room to talk, but I definitely want to turn my AC on, because I'm dying right now. I'm sweating bullets.
I had the opposite. It's been cold this whole time.
Yeah, I'll trade you.
No, it's hot outside. So.
Oh, okay. Well, wow! I'll trade you again. No, so overall, though, I do feel like I want to end on a positive, just to say, like, the classes still sound awesome. Every information we get about classes, I want to play the classes, and that's, I think, a lot of people's sentiment, right? And so in the end, we got some information about classes. It might not have been the information that everyone wanted. It was enough for a lot of people, enough to get people excited. I'm still excited about the classes themselves. Still excited about being a druid. Still happy. I am into this for the long haul. I'm a little sad that I kind of overhyped myself, and but sad I didn't submit questions. So yes, I will take blame for my own feelings this time around.
Well, if you're ending positive, that means I need to end negative, right? Both ManOfRohan and I need to end negative just to balance it out. No, I think I just want to make a point that, for me, there was new information, because there was stuff that I have either heard and forgotten about, because I forget lots of things. I'm trying not to cuss too. Sorry, I almost did.
You've done so good.
It's very hard not to. It's very hard not to, Des. But there's definitely, there's things that I've heard and I've forgotten about, things that have changed that I still remember, but now they've changed, so they're not that way anymore. I've been following this game since 2017. There's stuff like I'm losing my times tables to remember stuff about this game. So it's one of those things where I think it helps sometimes to have a stream that is aimed towards a more general audience, and then also have streams that are aimed towards the hardcore audience as well. I think having a balance is good, but at the same time, having 2 streams a month is kind of a big thing that we're getting that much, because there's plenty of games where we don't get streams. It's like every 3 months even. So that's kind of, I don't know that. Wait, no, 36? Did I get that wrong? I hope I didn't. I think I got that wrong.
3 is 36.
See, but now I remember that there's a tree that heals you if you hug it. So that's where that math went. Okay,
that was a good mnemonic device. Thank you, Jack.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed parts of the stream, and there was new information for me. There was information that I already knew, plus new information. I also get why some people were disappointed and wanting more. I think that the fact that we haven't heard much about the Druid in a long time makes me think that, like, hopefully we'll get an actual refresh soon of the Druid instead of just this, because but I think it actually has to be in the game first.
Yeah. Which they made it. I sorry to interrupt, but again, they reinforced their whole we're not going to put new classes in. That was again stated. So
yeah. And I know that is a big frustration for a lot of people. People waiting on the Ranger, people waiting on the Summoner, Paladin, those kind of things. Although if the Paladin gets added, Nathan's going to have to drop his whole charade of not being a Dire Lord. So I don't know if that's okay or not. But yeah, that's my long-winded final thoughts on this one.
Welcome to Pantheon, Rise of the Recap. Recap of the Fallen.
This show is a recap.
I know. Well, in that,
it's a recap of ironic. A recap. Oh no.
Yeah, we're really digging for content. All right, ManOfRohan, closing thoughts.
Sure. My last thoughts are, I'm definitely coming around to, as I'm thinking, giving it a second thought. There are 2 streams a month, and I know that I said their number one job is to make the game sound fun, and it is. I still believe that, but they have the developer stream to show how the game is progressing and make it fun, and then they have this show, the Parting the Veil show, to live up to its name and actually part the veil and see behind the curtain and see the inner workings of what they're thinking and designing, and still make it fun. So there's a mandate still there. But there needs to be a differentiation between the shows, for sure. And this does seem a little bit like the same show that happened last week, just on a slightly different topic. So
with less gameplay footage.
Right.
Yeah.
So I see the value in what everyone said about those. I'm still just as happy with everything as far as what I got to experience tonight and learn. Because I have been following a long time, but darn it, I don't have time to go read all that all the time, and I go back and I read the lore so I can write songs about it, but that's about it.
We'll give you that.
My daughter's the one who probably knows more about it than I do, so I'll ask her questions. So anyway, so that's it. That's what I have to say.
Can we get a song about Dez's villain arc though? Because I think that would be amazing.
Yep, I'm imagining.
Save that for the next draft commercial.
Fedoras and capes and sneaky, film noir.
I used to have a fedora. I don't anymore, but I could make that happen. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for staying with us through this, pretty late Pantheon P+U2, and hope everyone got some nice discussion out of it. I'm still stoked. I think we're all still pretty happy overall, but I think this was a good night, and I really enjoy our discussions, and I really enjoy that I don't feel like I need to pretend with everybody here. So I just want to say I appreciate you all, and have a great night, everybody.
I had a lot of fun this stream, so I had a lot of fun. Thank y'all very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Night.
Bye.